You know, a country's money is kind of like its business card to the world. It shows off the people who really define its identity. And in Japan, that business card just got a huge redesign. So let's get to know the new face on the 10,000 yen note, Eiichi Shibusawa.
Right, so starting in 2024, if you're in Japan and using cash, this is the face you're going to be seeing on the 10,000 yen note, which is the country's biggest bill. And this is a really big deal, because they haven't changed the face on this banknote in 40 years.
And that brings us to the real question here. I mean, unlike a famous samurai or an emperor, Shibusawa probably isn't a name you've heard before, right? So why him? And why now? What is it about this guy from the 1800s that makes him the face of Japan's money today?
Well, the short answer is he's known as the father of Japanese capitalism. But trust me, his story and his whole idea of what capitalism should be is way more interesting and complex than that title even hints at.
His life story is it's this incredible journey of transformation. To really understand the man, you've got to see how he went from being a farmer's son to one of the main architects of modern Japan.
Okay, just look at this timeline, because it's absolutely wild. He's born in 1840 to a family of farmers. By the time he's 23, he's a full-on radical, plotting to kick out all foreigners. But then, just 4 years later, he gets sent on a mission to Europe. And what he sees there, modern banks, big corporations, trains, it just completely blows his mind. He comes back a totally changed person, and by 1869, he's working for the new government, the very one he wanted to destroy, helping them build a modern Japan. What a turnaround!
So after a couple of years in the government, he decided he could actually make a bigger difference from the outside, in the private sector. And what he did next, it's the stuff of legend. He wasn't just starting one company. He was literally building the entire foundation for Japan's modern economy.
This number says it all. Over his lifetime, Shibusawa helped create more than 500 companies and economic organizations. Just let that sink in for a second. 500!
And this isn't just some dusty old history. His fingerprints are all over Japan today. He helped set up the first modern bank, what's now Mizuho Bank, the Tokyo Stock Exchange. That was him. You've got famous brands like Sapporo Beer and the Imperial Hotel, and essential utilities like Tokyo Gas and TEPCO. The man was everywhere, putting together the nuts and bolts of a modern industrial nation.
So how on earth did one guy do all of this? Well, he had this big idea he called Gappan Shugi. Now back then, business was all about powerful families controlling these huge companies, the zaibatsu, just for themselves. Shibusawa's idea was totally revolutionary. He said, let's get investment from lots of different people, from the public, and let's run these companies to make the whole nation stronger, not just to make one family rich.
Okay, but here's where his story starts to feel incredibly relevant for us right now. He wasn't just a business genius, he was a deep thinker who truly believed that capitalism needed to have a moral compass to work properly.
He had a whole philosophy for this, called the unification of morality and economy. He took the old teachings of Confucius that he learned as a kid and applied them to business. He basically argued that economics and ethics aren't two separate things. Now, for a country to really thrive, they have to be completely woven together.
And this quote just perfectly sums up his whole worldview. For Shibusawa, making a profit was the result of doing business the right way. He was convinced that any money you make through shady or unethical means just won't last. The bottom line for him was simple: making money and making the world a better place should be two sides of the very same coin.
And listen, he wasn't just all talk. Shibusawa poured a massive amount of his own time, his energy, and his money into social causes. He really lived his philosophy, way beyond the boardroom.
Get this, for more than 50 years, he was the head of the Tokyo Yoikuin. This was a huge welfare institution that looked after orphans, the elderly, and people with disabilities. This wasn't some little side gig for him. It was a lifelong commitment. He was there longer than he was at any single company he founded.
And his social work was just so broad. He was a huge believer that the rich had a duty to help the poor. He backed major hospitals. He was a huge advocate for education, not just for businessmen, but for women too, which was super progressive for his time. And on top of all that, he was a diplomat, constantly working to build better relationships between Japan and the rest of the world.
Even his idea of charity was way ahead of its time. He called it bohin, which means poverty prevention. He thought just handing out money wasn't the answer.
For him, putting money into education and healthcare wasn't a cost, it was an investment. The real goal was to empower people, to help them stand on their own 2 feet and become contributing members of society. It was all about creating opportunity, not dependence.
So, all this brings us right back to where we started. Why this guy? Why put him on the new money here in the 21st century? Well, the answer is that his ideas feel unbelievably modern.
By putting Shibusawa on this bill, Japan is really making a statement. It's choosing to put a spotlight on a historical figure whose entire philosophy speaks directly to the biggest arguments we're having right now about capitalism and what it should be.
I mean, think about it. Every day we're talking about corporate social responsibility, ESG, the ethics of wealth, and global inequality. We're constantly asking, what is a business actually for? Is it just about making money for shareholders? Or does it have a bigger responsibility to society? These are the exact same questions Shibusawa was wrestling with over 100 years ago.
And for Eiichi Shibusawa, the answer was always crystal clear. Sure, a business needs to make a profit. He was a capitalist after all. But he believed you should never ever lose sight of the ultimate goal, which is to create real, lasting value for everybody. So that face on the new 10,000 yen note, it's not just a portrait. It's a challenge to all of us. What kind of economy do we really want to build?